Yeah.
Yep.
All right, it is 5:30. I'll call this meeting of the North Brookfield Board of Selectmen to order. It is October 21st, and if you'll all join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We started a little earlier today than usual because we have an interview for the town administrator. We'll get to that after we go through the usual beginning stuff here. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 7th.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve payroll warrant number 8, $370,030.14. School warrant number 1031, for $93,923.32. CDBG warrant number 1032 for $8,855.01. General fund number 1033 for $370,808.42. And projects warrant number 1034 for $416,592.20.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have a spending request. For the fire department for a laptop computer. It's from Every. Is that right?
That's what I was thinking.
All right. Keep up with the, it says purchasing one computer a year to keep up with their needs and stay on top of things. So I will entertain a motion to approve that spending request.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
You said it's in the budget?
It looks like they've budgeted to do one a year. That's what he was putting on the spending request, so that they are keeping up with technology but not going over budget, so.
All right. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now, old business. We have Ron Aponte here for an interview for the town administrator position. Do you want to come closer? Or?
Sure. Where's the hot seat?
If you sit over here, you're fine. You know, you might get bit over there.
Okay.
Me?
Ralph.
Oh,
Well, at least we're in the police.
All right, so we have a list of questions that we go through, and then we use that time to talk about various things that might come up. And we take turns with the questions.
Okay.
All right, so to start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to be North Brookfield's town administrator?
Sure. Well, as you can see from my resume and cover letter, I've got actually over 30 years of experience in private sector at Mass Mutual, IT management. I've got over 20 years experience in municipal management, mostly through being a select board member for over 20 years in Belchertown, and more recently as town administrator in Brookfield. And I guess I'm one of those strange animals that actually enjoys municipal government. I've been in, had a foot in both camps. I enjoy the challenges, and as you can see, I mean, as you all know, if you're a selectman for 21 years, you've been bit by the bug, so to speak. So I enjoy municipal management. Frankly, I think I'm good at it too. I've had quite a bit of success in Brookfield, quite a bit of success in Belchertown. So it's one of those things where I like the challenge. I think it fits my skill set and my experience that I've built up over the years, and it just makes for a good fit and kind of feels right, if you will, for lack of a better term. And as far as North Brookfield, North Brookfield has obviously a lot in common with that kind of small town charm that, frankly, that I like, that I saw in Brookfield and frankly in my hometown in Belchertown as well. I think there's a lot of similarities between the three towns, a lot of the same challenges, frankly. More often than not, it boils down to finances, and I think that's one of my particular strengths. I think I would be a good fit in North Brookfield. I've been watching, gosh, since back, I went all the way back through to the summer, these Selectmen meetings, and the funny thing is, it's going to sound like pandering. A couple meetings ago, there was a gentleman who came in for a sewer abatement, and he's passionate about his sewer abatement. He thought he had a good reason. You could tell right away that you guys weren't necessarily thinking it was as good a reason for an abatement as he was. And frankly, one of the things I guess maybe from my experiences in Brookfield, that shocked me to a certain extent, is how it was handled by the board. I think one, you all made the right decision in denying it, but two, you took the time to explain why you were denying it. You weren't belittling the applicant. There was no belligerence. It was a discussion. It was a professional discussion. And as God is my witness, I told my wife when I saw that, I said, I'd like to work with these guys. This is how a select board should be. And based upon my experience, my skill set, the similarities, and frankly, I think I could work well with the board and with the town.
Can you tell us something about yourself that's not on your resume?
Oh, geez. Well, I've been married over 30 years, 3 grown daughters. I'm very proud of all 3 of them. In fact, my buddies will go out of their way to explain that I was way over my weight class and marrying my wife. She's a wonderful woman. But probably one of the things that's very, very trivial is I'm actually still a really darn good softball player. I play over in Ludlow and haven't broken anything yet, so I'm still going there.
Since you have watched our select board meetings, as you said, what do you see as the key issues for our town?
Well, as I said, it certainly sounds like financial. I know in talking my previous interview with the search committee, one of the things that they had mentioned is there's approximately $400,000 that was utilized from stabilization and free cash to supplement the fiscal year 26 budget. Obviously, that's no one's option A, clearly. Probably not even their option B or option C on how to balance a budget. So right there, that tells me, okay, we do have an imbalance with revenue and expenses, and that's something that obviously you have to take a good hard look at during the budget process, but not only during the budget, but really throughout the year, so you don't end up in situations like that. So clearly that's part of it. Once again, in the discussion with the search committee, it sounds like with the schools, obviously, you have your own private school district, if you will, in North Brookfield. And there seems to be some issues associated with that, probably economies of scale, things like that, because obviously North Brookfield is one of the smaller school districts in the entire Commonwealth. So that's something to take a look at. Is regionalization even an option? Is it worth kicking the tires? There could be some savings there as well. So at this point, I think anything and everything should probably be on the table, because you don't have to be an economics major to understand if you're pulling from stabilization and free cash on a year-to-year basis, that's unsustainable. So it's something that has to be addressed sooner versus later.
What skills do you have that you can help us create solutions with some of these issues?
Well, talking about budgeting, in Belchertown, there's probably about 25 budgets with my fingerprints all over it. Belchertown actually, when I first became, first on the finance committee, then ultimately on the select board, that was actually a fairly common practice when I first started. Kind of pulled my hair out saying, guys, you can't do this year over year. And we came up with a game plan on how to utilize free cash and how to set some aside for capital items so you don't end up neglecting those. And really got to the point where well, actually several years ago at that point. Then Belchertown reached a point where it truly was a stabilized budget, and stabilization, free cash, they were utilized for really what they're more intended to, one-time type purchases, capital type purchases, things along those lines. And then in Brookfield, last year, we had a balanced budget. And I don't want to say everyone was completely satisfied, but after negotiations and discussions, the consensus did form that, you know, this was a fair and balanced budget. And that was the key, it was a balanced budget as well.
All right. Have you ever developed a long-term strategic plan for a municipality? And what was involved in that?
Yeah, obviously in the private sector, plenty of them through Mass Mutual, but on the municipal side, probably the first one was probably the most important one. That was in Belchertown. I was actually fairly new selectman, and the Belchertown State School was pretty much abandoned and left to rot by the state. And unfortunately, it's a huge campus, 160 plus acres, smack dab in the middle of Belchertown, really kind of encompassing what I would consider the business district, if you will, for Belchertown. That's where the infrastructure was. Sewer, water, even fiber optics were brought down there. And the key there is we had a diamond in the rough, but no one knew what to do. So it was kind of tasked, kind of raised my hand, I volunteered, if you will, to come up with a plan to say, how can we get the diamond in the rough? How can we get it polished up and actually working for us? So the first thing we realized was, and the town had previously, tried to advertise it, but there was so much environmental issues and remediation that was necessary, literally the millions of dollars. No developer would touch with a 10-foot pole. So what we ended up doing, and luckily we had a strong legislative team as well, is we were able to get the state to start to pony up to clean up their mess. And that's what we kept emphasizing. You guys did this, not us. And now we're being left with this. And they've actually, through a development, a partnership, I should say, with Mass Development, which is a quasi-private public sector economic development corporation, is really what it is, for the state. We were able to partner with them. We were able to get different grants, different state earmarks to start cleaning up some of these remediation issues, I should say. And slowly but surely, we were able to carve out little niches that we could start to develop. We could bring roads in, we could bring the infrastructure so it was right there to the doorstep. And I'm proud to say that at this point, and granted we're several years into the project, that we have several businesses down there. It's now to the point where instead of being an eyesore and an issue for the town of Belchertown, it's actually now, it's drawing revenue and it's increasing the business tax base and the job base. So that's something I'm pretty proud of. Certainly long-term, but it was a major project and it's getting there. We're not 100% there, but we're getting there.
Excellent.
Can you describe a time where you've had a conflict with an employee or board member or a crisis in town and how you handled it? What was the resolution? Did you learn any lessons? And would you change your approach to it?
Yeah, actually, probably wasn't the town administrator in Brookfield for more than 5 or 6 weeks. And I was up in my office, and my office was on the second floor, and I have an open door policy, so my door was open. And I'm working away on some document of some sort, and I could hear what sounded like raised voices, but muffled, still really couldn't tell. So I said, yeah, okay, something's, because it didn't abate. So I said, well, let me go to the top of the stairs and what's going on here. I reached the top of the stairs and listened, and sure enough, there was a very loud, I won't even say discussion, it was an argument with much profanity. And as soon as I heard that, I darted down the stairs. And once I got downstairs, I could see that there was a gentleman, a well-known citizen, very active in town politics and in town activities. And he was in the doorway of our town collector's office, and screaming, profanity, all, every other word just about. So I go running over there, and as I'm approaching the office, I can see there's actually a selectman. The selectman is actually just inside the doorway, and that's where the fight is. And lo and behold, I got between the two. And the funny thing is, I'm all of 5'7", and both of those guys are probably about 6'2", 6'3". And it's like, okay, enough, let's knock it off. And I could see that the citizen was certainly the more belligerent, he was the more angry, if you will. So I just told the selectman, I said, let me take care of it. And I brought him up to my office, shut the door, and said, what the heck is going on? Why? Of course, he was explaining, he said this to me, and he did that, and so on and so forth. And basically, I just kind of let him vent, and just let him pour it all out, and just explain to him, okay, this, I understand, why you're upset and everything, but this is not how you handle it. It's certainly not in town hall, and certainly not with all the profanity. Luckily, it was a relatively slow period at that time, so it wasn't crowded, but at any given time, you can have a dozen people in there, taking care of their business. And I explained to him that this was not to be tolerated. If it happened again, I even said, I'll call the police. I said, we cannot have this in town hall. And lo and behold, someone did actually end up calling the police. And just as things were settling down, the police came, and that actually gave me an opportunity to go down and talk to the selectmen. And he explained his side of the story. That, he was kind of attacked, if you will, and it was like, okay, understood, but you're a selectman now. You, to a certain extent, you can't be lobbing some of those grenades back as well. So he realized that, and he said he kind of got caught up in the emotion and everything. But it was just one of those situations, especially being brand new. I still have the plastic wrap on myself, and to have a situation like that, it was. I don't want to say it was eye-opening, because I've been in similar situations, but never in that type, smack dab literally in the middle of town hall. And I guess the good news is we haven't had a repeat performance of anything like that from any parties. Bad news is the selectmen and the citizen are, they're not exchanging Christmas cards, let's just say that.
It happens.
How would your previous coworkers describe you?
Okay, I'd say they would say I have high standards. I expect a lot out of my employees and my coworkers. I expect them to work hard, I expect them to do their job. But I think they would also say I'm fair, where if there's some situations where performance was lacking or was impacted in a negative way, then I'm willing to listen to that and understand, well, okay, I can see how that would affect you. So I would say high standards, fair. I would say they probably consider me a leader. I kind of have more of a coach, collaborative approach. I think rarely is there a one-size-fits-all, top-down approach that works for everything. Sometimes it works, but I've found, at least personally in all of my management experience, it's usually a lot better if problems and resolutions emanate from the people closest to the problem. I'm not going to be telling the police chief how to run his patrols, but I might point something out where I say, hey, I don't think you have enough visibility in this part of town, or we have a ton of complaints about speeding over here. So I might throw that out there, and then we might have a discussion about something along those lines. But I'm certainly not going to say, this is how you run your shifts, because frankly, I think that's just arrogance to think you know better than a department head. But once again, by being collaborative, I think you can reach the best solutions. Because sometimes, just being an outsider, I might see things differently that maybe a chief or another department head just wouldn't see.
What do you consider your overall greatest strengths and weaknesses?
I would say strengths would probably be communication. Like I said, I like a collaborative coaching type style of management, and that really comes down to communication, working with your people. coming up with goals and objectives that are truly collaborative, that will move everyone forward. It's not fair for a manager, say as a town administrator, to set goals that are unachievable and setting people up to fail. I mean, you're not accomplishing anything at that point. So I believe it's a collaborative effort to, one, identify goals and objectives, and obviously that is kind of a top-down, where goals and objectives would come from the select board or the board of selectmen to myself as town administrator, and then I would then farm that out on an as-needed basis to the department heads. And in creating their goals and objectives, it's something that would support the goals and objectives that the board has indicated as a priority. So I would say that collaborative or communication collaborative approach is probably best. And weaknesses, I don't know if I call it a weakness, but the fact that in Brookfield I wasn't able to get as I refer to them, the Hatfields and the boys, to find common ground. And instances where, individually they're passionate about the town, they want to do what's best for the town, but they also want it done their way. And on the other side of the fence, they're the same way. And when you put it together, it sparks a good night. And for whatever reason, and God knows I've tried, I've not been able to get them to move closer. Very frustrating, to be honest. You put that much effort into it, and it's just, you don't see the results.
All right, gentlemen, I don't really like this next question.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna skip it? Sure. You wanna go with that, Ralph?
Sure.
Good. Yeah, I don't think it's applicable, but I'm...
No.
Yeah. Which forms of communication do you find most effective in keeping our townspeople informed about regular town business, important meetings, and elections?
Well, actually, I did run into that in Brookfield. When I first showed up at Brookfield, there was a divide, if you will, between what was happening in town government and what town officials and town employees knew, and what the community knew. So that was one of the things I identified almost immediately is we got to get some type of communication going back and forth. And I did approach the select board, and were able to convince them to form a communications committee. And we ended up with almost immediately 3 tremendous volunteers that specialize in social media and other forms of communications. And from a communications aspect, I always believe the widest net possible is your best bet. You could say, oh yeah, let's put it on Facebook, let's put it on the website. Some people just don't have computers and don't have interest in computers, and they'll never see that. So you still need the old-fashioned type bulletins and one-page sheets and things like that you have around town. So I would say, personally, always that widest possible net, and make sure it's consistent across all. Because the worst thing you could do is, on your Facebook page, your official town Facebook page, it says one thing, and on that sheet of paper at the library, it says something different, even if it's slightly different, because now people have lost they've lost the trust in that communications, and it just could break it down.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Can you briefly elaborate on the wrong question. How do you prefer to communicate with the Board of Selectmen in terms of means, methods, and frequency?
Well, I would say, once again, whatever you all, you might prefer email, you might prefer a phone call, you might prefer a face-to-face. I'm perfectly comfortable doing all that. Whatever works best for you, once again, kind of in tune with that wide net approach. So, I mean, as far as frequency, I generally, as a town administrator, I like to let you guys, I am willing to do it. And in fact, in Brookfield, I had one selectman who would call me up 2, 3, even 4 times a day. Fine by me. That's what he was comfortable with, and that's how it was best to communicate with him. I was fine with that. I had another select board member, and she would call once a week, spend maybe about 20 minutes, and give her the 30,000-foot highlights, and she was happy with that. And I'm fine with that as well. So I feel I have to kind of, work with whatever works best for you. I know you all have your own jobs and your own lives, and my job is to help you guys do your job better.
All right, so describe your approach to creating and managing budgets for municipality.
Okay. Generally, what I've done in the past is I've sent out a budget kickoff letter, if you will, indicating, this is kind of the timeline we're going to try to adhere to. So now department heads and committee chairs now have an idea. We'll give them a hard deadline of, in this case, fiscal year 27 budget numbers. Make sure they're in by such and such a date, which you give myself, the select board, the finance committee, all the pertinent officials an opportunity to kind of look and digest what those expenses are. And through, once again, collaborative discussion with the select board, with the finance committee, are we going to go for a level budget? Are we going to go for a level service budget? Are we going to be reducing budgets? I mean, let's get that out beforehand. So once again, we can communicate that as early as possible to the department heads. Now, the difficult part about that is a lot of times, especially early in the process, you're talking January timeframe, revenues, it's a bit of a roll of the dice. I mean, you have House 1, that budget that comes out of the state, usually around the end of January. I've actually found that to be not a bad indicator. You're usually at least in the ballpark. I mean, you're rarely dead on, but at least you're in the general ballpark to kind of set for that. So generally by the end of January, I'd like to have the revenue figures more or less squared away. That means new growth from your assessors, the tax rates, use House 1 budget for whatever state aid you're going to be getting. Also collaborate with the schools if they have an idea of what they're going to have for Medicaid reimbursement, things along those lines. So at least once again, and it's they're in pencil. They're certainly not in pen at that point. But if you can get your revenue numbers, or at least they're once again in the ballpark by early February, late January, early February, then you can start to discuss. Okay, department heads, what are you looking for? Why are you looking for that? And so on and so forth. And once you hear from all your department heads, now comes the fun part. Now is myself, the select board, the finance committee, and also I think you have to include the school committee and the school superintendent, because clearly, I mean, in looking, they're about half the budget. So I think it's important to have them involved from the earliest possible parts of the budget formation and budget process, because they can't develop a budget just in isolation. So, okay, this is what we need. I'm not arguing that's probably what you need, but you can't afford that, because this is what's happening over here. And once again, be collaborative. Let's start weighing priorities and so on and so forth, so we can achieve that balanced budget. So that's kind of in a nutshell the Ron Ponte budget process.
Grant writing. Securing funding for municipal projects.
Well, I would be a liar if I told you I had a lot of experience in grant writing. I've been involved in a couple in Belchertown early on, firefighting, more public safety type grants, and to be perfectly honest, it was more contributory than the submitter. There was once again a collaborative effort with the fire chief and the police chief on those. In Brookfield, we actually had three, since I started, three large grants totaling nearly $2.5 million. Once again, I mean, I was a contributor, but certainly by no means the submitter of those. But unfortunately, our grant writer then left, and I had to quickly learn how to be a grant administrator. And I've been performing that function really for the last several months. And just recently was able to find a grant consultant that is taking on the administrative portions of those grants and doing so incredibly reasonably. And I was pleasantly surprised when the price tag came in. But the one thing I learned is it is worthwhile to, instead of just taking everything in-house and trying to do it in-house, find out if you can find a consultant, a true expert. because they're so much more efficient. They know how to do this. They know where to look. They know, what boxes to check, and they can really be much more efficient. Now, I still say, even if you find the perfect grant writer or grant writing consultant, I still think the town administrator, all the department heads, the select board, all the committee members, the town in general, should all be grant researchers and seekers. For the simple fact is, I'd much rather have just, one grant writer or one consulting for looking for grants versus having, a couple dozen people looking for them. Because I know sometimes an email will pop up or you see an article or something and you're like, ooh, yeah, that's worth looking into. Maybe I'm not the expert in that, maybe it's more of a public safety type grant. Farm it off to the chief. Hey chief, take a look at this. Is this something that's worthwhile for us to look at? So I guess that's kind of my two-pronged approach to grant writing.
What ideas do you have for economic development for the town of North Brookfield?
Which also ties into the revenue portion of the budget process, obviously. And with economic development, one of the things that was big back in Belchertown that I helped spearhead was having Belchertown declare, in fact, that state school area declared an economic target area and economic target opportunity area. And what that allowed Belchertown to be able to do is to qualify for many more grants, other different sources of funding and things along those lines. And I did notice in some of the research that I had done that it does appear that the state recognizes North Brookfield as an ETA. So that's the type of thing where it's not only in recruiting business, but as I said, it opens up a lot of opportunities. One of the things, as I had mentioned earlier with Belchertown State School, when we became an economic target area in Belchertown, that also fostered a relationship with Mass Development. Now, Mass Development, they have connections literally throughout the state, throughout the nation. And if there's a company that's looking for to do business in Massachusetts, let's be honest, they're not calling the town administrator saying, hey, you got anything in North Brookfield? No, they're going to an organization like Mass Development saying, we need this many square feet, we need this type of facility, this type of infrastructure, what do you guys got? And now you have someone like Mass Development who's almost really acting as a marketing arm for you, and now they're your eyes and ears. And now they're saying, oh, you know what, yeah, we have something like that in North Brookfield. And I think once you've kind of at least established that relationship or early relationship with the business, an economic target area also affords you to have tax incentives. Once again, we were able to do that in Belchertown. And it's for not only recruiting, but also for retaining. Where now you can offer these tax incentives, they call them TIFs or DIFs, and it makes North Brookfield look that much more marketable to those potential business customers. And let's be honest, North Brookfield is fighting with Brookfield and West Brookfield and all the surrounding towns for those same very limited business dollars. And if you have the land, if you have the proper zoning, the proper infrastructure, that gets you at least to the table. But let's be honest, there's probably a half dozen other towns out there that probably can check all those boxes as well. But if you can differentiate yourself by saying, you know what, we can give you tax breaks for the first couple of years that you're here. Now you have differentiated yourself. Now that business owner is saying, okay, let's talk some more. So these are all the types of things that you can utilize for economic development. And once again, I mean, the hardest part, to be honest with you, I think is already done because, as I said, the state appears to recognize North Brookfield as an economic target area.
Right. So you already described what was probably the largest project that you've been involved in with the Belchertown State School.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you manage keeping everything on time with that project?
A lot of work from a lot of different people. As I said, the legislative team was huge in it. Our partnership with Mass Development was huge. But also, I guess kind of like with grants, you kind of have matching portion, sometimes in-kind service, sometimes it's actual upfront dollars. And that was probably one of the things that was most important, you know, as a selectman, is to make sure as these opportunities or grants came up, that the town was able to pony up, for lack of a better term, be it through in-kind services, be it through actual hard dollars. And there was a couple instances where there were, once again, fairly large grant amounts that were available, but it took, you know, like 6 figures of matching for the town. Well, the key there is obviously, you know, if you hadn't planned for it and that came up and you had 6 weeks to come up with, you know, a couple $100,000, it's not gonna happen. Because frankly, it has to go through town meeting as well. But in knowing that things like this were coming down the pike, we could then start arranging, if you will, our finances, which is part of it, because then the other part is there is a marketing aspect of it where now you have to sell to town meeting. And no one at town meeting wants to hear, what do you mean, we're gonna have to write a check for $200,000 to get, you know, this you know, $1.5 million grant, and you're gonna knock down a couple buildings, but okay, you're still not adding anyone per se. And you have to kind of, after you have to say, no, you know, you're only looking at this far. Look at the whole picture. You know, this is one step in a multi-step process so that we can achieve ultimately what everyone wants to achieve, and that was economic development and taking that blighted property and putting it not only on the tax rolls, but also make it a jewel in the center of Belchertown. And we're on the process of doing that.
How do you ensure compliance with procurement law?
Being very careful, and once again, communicating with, I don't know if the town administrator is the chief procurement officer in North Brookfield. Yes, so then everything, I mean, in that regards, actually, it makes it a little bit easier, so you don't have to worry about, you know, people kind of running off and doing their own thing and, you know, kind of seeing after the fact, oh, no, you didn't get any quotes for that, or you didn't do an RFP or something along those lines. So at that point, yes, it's really just adhering to Chapter 30B practices, which I'm certainly well aware of, and just making sure that I'm careful in that regards, but also communicating as department heads are looking for something, or the town in general is looking for something, also explaining, well, it's not that easy because with Chapter 30B, here's all the steps we have to go through, and here's the criteria that we have to match as well. So it's not like, you know, just going down to Costco and buying something.
Okay, so now we're going to start getting into personnel areas. How would you describe your leadership style?
So as I said before, I think I'm more of a kind of a coach, but also I'm a firm believer in, I'm not going to ask people to do something I'm not willing to do. I'm not going to try to set people up for failure. I'm going to make sure if I have those high standards that it's achievable. I'm supporting them, and I'm making sure others are supporting them so that they can achieve those high standards. So I think in that regards, you know, being that coach also means touching base with them frequently. Just makes my blood boil when I hear of performance reviews where, you know, after 12 months they sit down and say, okay, you did a horrible job. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the employee didn't do a horrible job, the manager did a horrible job. Because if they're not meeting their performance levels, one, the manager should be aware of that. And two, as soon as you're aware of that, you find out why. You know, what's going on here? I mean, sometimes you can't immediately say, oh, well, you're just lazy, you know, let's get rid of this guy. Well, no, I mean, maybe there's something happening in their personal life. You know, maybe their child's sick, their wife's sick, something along those lines. You know, that's the type of thing you have to support them through. Meaning it's something as simple as training. You know, I don't want to do that. No one's ever showed me. You know, you got to train. Or I don't have the equipment to do that. You know, you can't ask the DPW to make sure that all the streets are perfectly paved and plowed if you don't give them the equipment and material to do that. So I think it's important for a manager to check in frequently. And if they do see a deviation of what they're expecting versus what they're actually seeing, you have to address it immediately.
Did you want to expound on that at all? Ask more questions? I know you had more last time.
No,
Based on the answer.
No?
No, Mr. Ponte checked all my boxes.
All right. Just making sure we didn't miss anything.
No.
So what methods have you used to collaborate with staff and support collaboration between departments?
I'm a big believer in probably at least a monthly, what I call all department heads meeting. And I find that to be useful, kind of, literally get everyone in the same room and say, okay, one, be informative, hey, this is kind of what's on my plate. Generally, what I've seen come out of that is as something is discussed, another department head is like, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I ran into a similar situation, or I have, something that might be able to help you there. And then that kind of gets more of a free flow, and I would say it's forcing your department heads to talk to each other, but frankly, it really is. It forces them to talk and collaborate, and hopefully, if it's really working well, they don't need a department head meeting and the town administrator saying, okay, thou shalt show up at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning at such and such a location to do this. Where now they feel more comfortable collaborating department to department and reaching out for assistance from one department to another. So I think that's very important, but also I think a good old-fashioned status meeting with your direct reports, it's important. That way you can make sure, whatever key projects or deliverables are they're on schedule, and if they're not, once again, you're finding out fairly early on in the process, well, that date might have to slip because we never consider X, Y, and Z. Well, I'd much rather know about that early than, a few days before the delivery. Because that also affords me the opportunity, one, to obviously know about it, two, is there something we could do to fix it, but also to inform you guys and say, guess what, Project X, I don't think it's going to happen in the spring because of X, Y, and Z, so that you guys aren't caught flat-footed. I know as a select board member, the worst thing you can do is be at the store and someone asks you a question and you say, I didn't know that. And if that happens, that generally means I didn't do my job as town administrator, keeping you guys informed. And that's one thing that, like I said, being a selectman for so long, I guess I'm extra hypersensitive to things like that.
What is your approach to employee performance evaluations and professional development opportunities, and how do you ensure accountability?
I'm a big believer in performance evaluations, performance reviews, whatever term you want to use. Kind of a two-step process in which to set the goals and objectives. First meeting I'll have with the direct report is I'll say, here's the things I'd like you to accomplish, which frankly would probably flow down from objectives, goals and objectives that the board would have. And based upon that, then the department head, I would ask them to bring goals and objectives that they'd like to achieve. And then we can kind of collaborate. Maybe there's overlap on some of those, maybe there's not. Maybe there's some that it's like, okay, I see what you're saying, but that's a lesser priority. Let's put that in the nice to have category. But then once we kind of have that meeting, we've established, okay, here's your 6 or 8 goals and objectives for the year. Then in a secondary meeting, I try to come up with metrics, and which it becomes quantifiable. And sometimes you can't really do it, but there are other instances where you can make it quantifiable, at least relatively quantifiable, because that way then, as performance is happening through the year, at least you have something to measure it against. And once again, I can say, geez, you know what? It looks like we're slipping behind on that. And we can concentrate on that. I notice your budget variance is not looking good. We're a quarter way through the year, and you've already spent 40%. That's something we got to keep an eye on. And that's the type of thing that we can have that discussion where it's a focused discussion. How do we address that? Your budget is running over. We can't have that. What steps can we take to alleviate that so we're back in line? So, I mean, some people say, oh yeah, it's a 6-month review. I don't even want to be held to a 6-month review. I think there are almost those status meetings become mini reviews, to use a lack of a better term. So that at the end of the year, there's no surprises. Because the worst thing, once again, is I know as soon as you say performance review, performance evaluation, employees go, oh my gosh, I'm going to get slammed with it. It shouldn't be that way at all. It should more or less be an affirmation of this is what you did, this is how you did over the last 12 months. And if it was substandard, here's our corrective action plan. Here's how we're gonna improve that performance.
What experience do you have developing and implementing personnel policies? And please discuss your experience with employee contracts, including negotiations with labor unions and service providers.
I got plenty of union contracts with my fingerprints on as well. In Belchertown, I was like Mr. Negotiator on the select board. Gosh, I would say 15, maybe 20 contracts over my years in, I was a selectman with Belchertown. I also did the police union contract for Brookfield last year. My contract negotiations, and I'm either a great negotiator or a horrible one. I think you gotta be a straight shooter. I don't like to play games. I know that you're supposed to, play the game, and I mean, maybe to a certain extent I do, but I like to establish trust. Like, I'm not gonna, feed you a bunch of BS, because frankly, I think it's almost, disingenuous. It's almost, by playing the game, you're saying, oh, I don't think you're that smart to see through this. And I just see that as a waste of time. And so I'm, pretty upfront. I mean, we'll obviously have had a discussion beforehand, and we'll all know going in that, these are kind of the parameters. These are the max parameters. And we're shooting for here, we can't go above this point. And I'll take that in, and I'll, as I said, maybe I'll play the game to it. A certain extent, I'm not gonna say, well, listen, we'll give you this. Once again, I'll discuss it with them, and then if they're coming back with unreasonable demands, and this is the truth, it was a police union contract. They had a new union rep, and she was gonna make her mark. She was gonna show this Belchertown selectman that she's tough. And she came in with, outrageous demands. And I looked at her, and I looked at the union steward, the president. I said, are those your demands? He said, yes. Not exactly full of confidence, but he did say yes. And I just folded up my portfolio and left and said, let me know when you're realistic. And I just left. And they ended up firing that particular union rep, and we did it, just myself and the union steward. We hammered out a negotiation. No lawyers involved, no nothing. And that's, because there was a trust that had been established, where it's like, I'm not here to screw you guys over. Because I'm a firm believer, if you have a contract that's so good and so beneficial for the town, all you're doing is you're pushing, the union, and in this case, police officer, you're pushing them out the door. So they're gonna go to somewhere else. And is that really a good contract? Because you really didn't save anything, because now you're 3 people short, and now you're running overtime, and now you gotta bring in your recruits, and you gotta put through the academy and spend money on through the academy, and then you have to train. That wasn't a good contract. You have to have a contract that's truly fair. And I'm a firm believer, the market will set the rate. You could say, oh my gosh, that's way too much, but that's what the market's bearing, that's what you gotta do.
Either of you want Mr. Ponte to elaborate on anything?
I do.
Okay.
I have 2 things. I'll put them up together. I'd like you please to talk about what appears to be, I might be mistaken, a gap between Bearings and as a town administrator.
Oh, yes.
There's a gap there, and then explain what happened in Brookfield.
Yep. Well, the difference between Mass Mutual and Brookfield is with...
Bearings is Mass Mutual?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a subsidiary of Mass Mutual. Yeah, the Cornerstone, Bearings, they're all subsidiaries of Mass Mutual. So I'll often refer to it as just my time at Mass Mutual. But what happened there is they were offering packages, and the package was such, if you had a certain age and you had a certain number of years in, and I had quite a few years in because I joined pretty much right out of college, that you could get a very significant severance package or retirement package, whatever term that they were going to use. And I literally just qualified, And I talked to my wife about it, and I'll be honest, I've done the private sector, and, been there, done that. I had financial flexibility because of that package, that I could then, what I ended up doing, I was doing some consulting, on the side consulting, computer consulting, which is something I enjoy doing anyway. And then I said, okay, it's time, I've kind of done my consulting portion, got that out of my blood, and started looking, private sector, so on and so forth. And I said, you know what, I really want to try the municipal sector. And literally just kind of took a roll of the dice and, let's try it. Once again, I kind of had a financial cushion to fall back on in case it all fell apart. I knew I could go out into the private sector and get a job just based upon my experience. And I like municipal government. As I said, I was a selectman for 21 years. I was a finance committee member for many years before that. So the Brookfield position opened up, got hired, and lo and behold, went in there. And to be honest with you, loved the job. Actually, loved being a town administrator. The problem I ran into with Brookfield is, as I had alluded to before, it kind of had the Hatfields and the McCoys, and just the constant, friction and warring and fighting. And as a town administrator, once again with my management style, I was kind of the guy in the middle. And once you said, you thought you had maybe a compromise working, it would blow up. The wheels would fall off for one reason or another. And I literally found myself, working really hard and seeing very little progress, to be honest with you. And it was very, very frustrating. And it really, truly hit home fairly recently. My daughters live in Rhode Island. And my oldest daughter, she said, "What's wrong, Dad?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You just don't see yourself. You're not happy-go-lucky, you're not happy, you're not cracking jokes, so on and so forth." And that's when I realized the friction, the fighting, the constant battles, if you will, was now starting to affect my own life. And I really wasn't making any progress in Brookfield. So I honestly said, am I doing any good here? It's not good for me if it's affecting my personal life. Right. And I don't seem to be getting anywhere with Brookfield and getting the parties together. So it's just a situation where, for whatever reason, I'm not the right guy for the job. I don't have the right management style for the job, or maybe it's just unfixable. I don't know, but I came to the realization that it wasn't worth it anymore. I was banging my head literally against the wall, it seemed like, and we weren't getting any closer. And if I kind of did that giant step back and say, are the warring parties any closer today than they were 18 months ago when I first started? The answer was no. If anything, they might even be further apart. So that's why it made it, I don't want to say it made it an easy decision, but it became apparent it was a decision I had to make. Just for my own good, and like I said, frankly, probably for the good of the town as well. But maybe someone else can find that compromise better than I could.
Yeah, you want them to elaborate?
I'm good.
You? Do you have any questions for us?
Not too bad. It says free cash been certified for FY25?
No.
It's not?
No.
Okay. Capital projects in the pipeline. It looks like you guys have done quite a bit as far as major projects. Is there anything else kind of hiding in the closet or in the pipeline that's going to hit us? Or kind of what we have on the books is where we are?
Do we have a water project that we're supposed to be looking at coming up? I thought you talked about something like that.
Nothing in particular.
No upgrades?
No,
Excellent.
I don't have any upgrades to
All right. Just trying to wrap some things up. Sewer
Yeah, so-
We got some paving projects coming up that apparently aren't gonna be this year, so, but,
Okay, no, fair enough, okay.
We've bitten off, my opinion,
yeah.
we've bitten off more than we can chew. And we're kind of struggling, trying to.
I did see quite a bit of debt when I started looking through, debt and interest payments when I was going through the budget, the FY26 budget. But one of the things I did notice is it looks like there's two projects. I think there's a school project, the library project, and then the police station project, amounting to, at least in FY26, about $500,000 that looks like it could be coming off the books in the next few years. So that's encouraging. I call that the proverbial, the sun's coming up over the horizon type of thing. But obviously you can survive until then. So, and I believe the school one is coming off this year. So,
This spring.
yeah. So, that's good because, once again, it's probably, what, $250,000?
Yeah, we're pretty much maxed out on our credit cards right now.
I hear you. Well, I guess the good news is you're going to get at least one of those payments is going to be coming off. And that should help if you take that $250,000, kind of superimpose that over the $400,000 we took from stabilization and free cash. Well, it takes a decent bite out of that. So once again, the horizons, the sun's starting to peek up over the horizon in that regards. I guess I had asked the search committee, and you guys had asked me, what do you all see as the biggest challenges in town?
It's been a tough week. Oh, biggest challenge, for me, I'll speak because you guys aren't.
Go ahead.
The biggest challenges I see right now, it really, again, we've bitten off more than we could chew. And not only from a financial standpoint, really from a project management, we are in very tough shape. Coming from private industry, I have never been in a situation where project management has been this willy-nilly. I don't even know how to explain it. In private industry, this would be completely unacceptable. I understand, I understand a little bit more why things are the way they are right now in my months of being in this position. But certainly some, what I would consider mismanagement on projects, some miscommunication, some misleading things. And just trying to take a bad situation and kind of doing what you can to bring it to the best result it can. Certainly, I would like to think that the town has learned its lesson in some of the projects that we're doing now, but I'm kind of settled on the fact that by the time these are paid off, we'll all be dead anyway. So it'll be a whole new generation that will have to make new mistakes. But just really getting through the thick of where we are now. And I'd love to say that I'm seeing a vision of years out, but again, it's just getting through the next few months at least. Okay.
Yeah, I would echo that for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Project management is something I did for 30 plus years at Mass Mutual. So hopefully I can certainly help in that regards. My experience and skill set in doing that. And once again, I think a lot of that is just communication. Making sure people know you're responsible for this and these are timelines and deadlines. Just making sure I have a favorite saying, there's no such thing as over communicating. And that way, if someone drops the ball, I never ever want them to go say, well, I didn't know. Yes, you did.
Yeah, certainly from our standpoint, we're part-time.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, and it's a real challenge following a lot of these things through, especially if you're new to municipal, public construction projects or how paving works or even grants, matching portion of grants and in kind and how all this works. Very tough to do on a part-time basis. So, I mean, I'm leading back to, I guess, what I would hope would come from this position is some help tying that together. In that, you know, I was told that the select board can't really do the day-to-day, and I was a bit apprehensive about that comment, but I'm coming to realize where the sentiment was. It was a very wise man who said it, but getting some help, kind of, certainly we've got ideas in how we'd like the things go, but some help to kind of keep that kind of tied into what's going on the day-to-day.
If I can just add something to it.
Sure.
I agree with everything you've been saying, Jamie, you've done a good job. I just want to add that I think I'm fairly new to the town, only about 6 years now. And I'm new in this. But I think the town has a lot of good people here who have good intentions, high level of passion for the town. But I think there has not been tons of direction. In other words, oh, we need a fire station, so let's do this. We need a highway department. Oh, wait a minute, that popped up, let's do this. And there hasn't been a lot of coordination and aiming towards an aim where everybody's pulling together to attain a goal and then go on to the next one or something like that. It just, I think it's, Jamie said willy-nilly, and I think that kind of, I think that that's kind of true to a degree.
Actually, just one other, well, two-part question. Health insurance provider, Maya?
Yes.
Hi. The town employee split, is it 70-30 or 75-25? City Hall. 70-30.
There's, again, hires now, but there's multiple levels
There's
due
people-
to date of hire.
Yeah, existing on others, but current is 70-30.
Excellent. That is all the questions that I had.
Are we gonna take questions from the crowd?
Sheila's here.
She has her hand up.
I said that many times.
So
Yeah.
Sheila, go ahead.
So I just wanted to clarify, you had asked about other projects. One of the issues is we do have the town hall that we have a committee working on. And they want to start some construction. I've emailed the selectmen a couple times. So they may be looking to float some of that money through us until they can get their reimbursement. So that, to me, is another project that's going to have to be tracked. And also, one of the next agenda items is a strap grant, which would be a whole project of sidewalks on North Main Street.
With the town hall, is that grant funded, town funded?
So it's really grant funded. It's a select group that have worked together to raise funds themselves, and they got some earmarks, and they've got some earmarks from the state, and they also have some ARPA earmarks. And what we're trying to determine is what piece. If they're going to start $1 million, you know, they can only do it piece by piece because they don't have the full thing. You know, what part the town plays in it.
Yeah, that certainly sounds very important, and you mentioned the ARPA earmarks. Obviously, something we consider there is whatever the specific wording of that earmark was for ARPA funds has to be completed, I believe, by the end of '26.
I believe you're right, and so I'm just trying to wrap things up on that, and also I believe there's a potential for a $2 million project down at the sewer plant, isn't there?
Yep, for new clarifiers, secondary clarifiers. We did apply for a earmark, a CDS grant. We have not heard back from them. Actually, we heard back originally, it went to the state, the US Senate's office, and now we're waiting to hear back from them as to whether or not it's approved.
Okay. So it's a federal grant, not a state?
Federal grant, yep. And then we also, the engineering firm that we're working with also applied for an SRF loan. won't hear back until, I believe, 26 on that. And that's just a apply but don't accept type thing.
Okay.
You know, we were uncertain with the CDS how that was gonna work out.
Okay, yeah. Belt and suspenders, not a bad idea.
What's that?
No, belt and suspenders, kind of got it covered on both sides.
Right, yeah, so that was kind of, again, it doesn't mean we have to accept the SRF if it's approved, but they did want to be proactive and apply for it just to, in case the CDS fails.
Yep.
We just completed a $23 million wastewater upgrade project. Yeah, and unfortunately, we didn't have enough money to cover the clarifiers. So those are 35 years old and they're in pretty tough condition.
Gotcha.
So eventually they will have to be replaced.
Is the EPA kind of like bird dogging you for things like that?
I would say not at this moment. They usually don't until you start to go out of compliance.
Sure, yeah.
And then that's when, right now we're in compliance, but, to me it's a matter of when they fail, not if they fail.
Yeah.
And then once they do, the problem is, like I explained to the board, is that's not something that's just brought in a course of a week. Like those clarifiers are a specific size, so, you have to procure it, right? You have to go through a public bid, and then they have to be, manufactured. That could be a 18-month lead time.
I was going to ask about the lead time.
Yeah, so then, you start to play the game of like, are we out of compliance for that long? So I think just being proactive and trying to get the project completed before something fails is the best way to handle that.
Yeah, especially when like you said, just based upon their age, it's not a question of if, it's when.
Right.
And generally, my dealings with the EPA, certainly with things like effluents and anything sewer related, they don't have a lot of grace period. They can be really, really tough and fines and so on and so forth.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Brandon?
Yeah, you mentioned insurance. I noticed you did find some savings in Brookfield by switching. Do you think that's something that applied to North Brookfield or no?
Potentially. The only issue is when Brookfield moved from Maya, which was charging top dollar about Brookfield, and went to the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. The Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust was significantly lower than Maya, but they also ran into an issue where the GLP-1s, the weight loss drugs, increased some 500+% between January of 25 and June of 25. And as a result, the increases that they had, and they were, kind of normal, unfortunately, across the industry. I believe it was 15% increase in premiums. Then they had to tack on another 20% on top of that. And basically what that did is it's still below Maya? Yep, a little bit, but it's in flux right now, to be quite honest, the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, as they're trying to catch up from the gut shot, if you will, that they had from the weight loss drugs. So at this point, I would say it's probably, I would like to give Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust at least another year for them to stabilize from a financial and reserves aspect. But that doesn't mean you can't arm wrestle with Maya as well.
Also, we completed our master plan open space plan a couple of years ago. How does that figure into your outlook for the future of the town? Did you go by Brookfield's?
Yeah, in fact, that kind of, it fits in with those goals and
Yeah,
objectives.
because there's a section for with goals and objectives that
Exactly.
have different time periods that.
Yes, and I mean, obviously, I haven't seen the open space plan for North Brookfield, but generally they are kind of divided up into deliverables and, approximate timelines. And I find that to be very useful as the select board or selectmen sets goals and objectives, but also there's deliverables for Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Rec Committee, things along those lines. And those can generally fit in as well, so that on individual committees or individual departments, they might have their own deliverables, and those, again, kind of bring everything together. So in that way, I almost use the open space plan as almost kind of like a pseudo mini master plan.
Well, the master plan, I'm referring to both.
Okay, so
the master
that
plan was
works out.
completed at the same time, so.
You have no more questions for us?
Well, actually, one more question. So I guess kind of what are the next steps? What's the timeline? What's the future goals?
So I guess the next thing is we have to figure out when we're gonna meet again to talk about your interview and, you know, what we wanna do. Do you guys have a idea when you wanna do that? Sooner rather than later?
Yeah.
Okay. When? What are you thinking?
I'm available this week except for tomorrow afternoon.
Do I need to be there? If it's a,
You know,
okay,
you know. We'll record it for you.
thank you.
Tuesday, they're posted.
We could do Friday during the day. I can make that if you guys wanted to do it. Or do you have to work?
I can't Friday.
Uh,
Yeah. Thursday night?
Can't make it.
I'm available.
What's that? I didn't hear you.
I'm available.
Thursday night? Afternoon?
Wouldn't that not fall under 48 hours of posting? Open meeting law?
Yeah.
Okay.
6:41.
Yeah, so you'd have to have it at 8 PM if you want me to post it now.
Sneaking in for Kevin. If you post right away.
Jump online.
What do you think?
Monday.
Monday?
Monday.
Monday. All right, Monday it is.
What time?
Anytime.
Monday, October 27th.
3:30.
3:30 PM.
All right.
Would you like me to be present or
This,
In the office?
Yeah, in the office is fine.
Okay.
Monday, 3:30 PM in the office. What's that?
I don't think so unless we come up with some follow-up questions.
No, you don't need to be there. And then, I guess we'll be in touch with you right after that. To give you, let you know what we came up with. All right?
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Okay, so the town accountant mentioned the STRAP grant being talked about again tonight. We had voted 2 weeks ago not to take it because there was some confusion and there was some issues where it may have interfered with a paving project and it may have cost us some up to about $170,000, $180,000 in matching monies in highway labor, among other things. And there were quite a few people that reached out to me and asked me why we were giving up on $1 million. And I tried explaining that that was the reason, because we don't have $170,000 or $180,000 to provide matching on this. So I reached out to the person at the state, at the DOT that works on these things. He told me that we don't have to worry about the matching at the moment. We might not have to match anything, but we have to go through the contract process. So we can go through the contract process and not be obligated to accept that until until we actually have a signed contract, which we don't at the moment. So, however, what we do have to do is we have to appoint somebody as the, I guess you could say, project manager for that particular grant. Right now it's listed as the town clerk. But the town clerk doesn't have the time to do that, or the necessary, I don't know, I guess the time is probably the biggest thing. So we have to do that, and since her name's on it, the other problem is with the grant is we have to change that person because the grant was actually signed with some stipulations on it. I don't want to say stipulations. It wasn't supposed to be signed without a vote to actually sign it, and it was. And it wasn't signed by us. So we need to re-vote on all that and appoint somebody to oversee that, at least until we have a town administrator.
So are you saying that we start by making a motion to accept the strap grant? Was that the first step? First thing we're gonna
that
do?
would, the process, we can accept the process, let's put it that way. So,
Okay, then I'll make a motion to accept the process to obtain the strap grant. That way it should be worded.
that'll work. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Anybody?
Well, I think it's good to hear that we could get it.
Well, it's not over yet.
Yeah.
No, we could.
I see you. I'll get there.
A informal conversation with the fellow from the economic development, in that we shouldn't worry about the match, is exactly that. It's an informal conversation. Time will tell. I am absolutely okay with keeping the options open and keeping open to the idea that a change can be made to where we are not going to be responsible for a match that we cannot afford at this time. I've also heard some ideas on where to get the funding, and I'm not very excited about any of the ideas I've heard. So I am not overly optimistic, but I do take the responsibility of stewardship of the town pretty seriously. And again, I remain open to kind of hearing how this can go, but I'm cautious.
Ralph?
I don't know, you got it.
All right, Sheila?
So we have nothing in writing from said person at the state level,
We're not obligated until we sign the contract.
but you have that in writing.
I don't have it in writing. As he said, it was an informal discussion.
Okay, so,
But we're not obligated till we don't have a signed contract yet.
okay, so where would you get this 189 going forward?
We don't have to worry about that till we sign a contract. There's no contract that's been signed.
So if there was a contract signed tonight, where would you get this 189?
I don't know if I would sign a contract for $189,000.
So I guess, and
We don't have,
why are we, what's the deadline?
we don't have the money.
Oh, I've said that repeatedly.
We don't have the money.
We don't.
And that's why we voted it down 2 weeks ago.
And so we're just gonna go on a verbal that there's a potential that we don't need the money.
There's no contract. We can still turn it down.
Sheila, there are more problems with this than just the match. Right? I mean, and I know you're aware of this. A whole slew of problems that need to be sorted out before this is even a viable option. the way the grant was presented, the vote that was taken in this room, was not how this played out. The inputs from both BCS and CMRPC were less than stellar. There's some information in that grant application that is problematic. The matching portion, I would throw into that. That match was based on an engineer's estimates of what the project costs would be. You know, I've gotten enough experience in the past couple months with that firm that, you know, I'm dealing with a project right now where they've came in grossly over, you know, came in under what the cost would be. So certainly there's a whole slew of problems here. But the state is putting an offer of $1 million to repair sidewalks, and you know, I think that the right thing to do is to stay open to it. But the reality is we can't bite off any more than we've bitten off now is not lost on any of us. Now, if Mr. Horn knows some kind of miracle where we can come out of this and without this match, if we can find a way of, you know, sorting out the problematic inputs that come into this whole, you know, this whole application process as well as the initial engineering cost estimation, okay, I'm all ears. But certainly there has been no answers to any of those questions. So as far as, you know, being cautious and not overly optimistic, I'm right there with you.
I just think it warrants a lot of thought. We've gotten ourselves in trouble before.
I think we all agree with that.
And I felt
No
this
one's
town
telling you
accountant, I
otherwise.
wanted it on record, my opinion.
Well, I'll kind of add on to what you said. We've gotten ourselves in trouble. We still are getting ourselves in trouble. I mean, we're in trouble now. I mean, we have a grant right now that we need to come up with money that we didn't foresee engineering and construction oversight. Absolutely, 100%. But again, you know, there's an opportunity. The gentleman who's in charge of the organization, you know, certainly is telling us to don't worry about it for now. We have not signed anything.
Nope.
And if you look at the application, certainly the vote that was taken here to file that application was not how things played out. So, I'm with you.
I think everybody at this table agrees with you.
And you weren't too agreeable this morning.
Well, we don't need to go into what that conversation was all about anyway, do we? Should have had my gavel this morning. Anyway, all right. So we have a motion to accept the process of looking at this grant and see if we can get it without any excruciating costs. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now we need to.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jason Botrytis as the grant administrator.
Second.
All right, well, that was fun. Discussion?
For me. You know, obviously, I think the idea is that this would get shifted. Responsibility gets shifted in the hopes of filling the town administrator position. But we need to, there is a need here and now to deal with the the application and the fact of the matter that we approved CMRPC to apply for this grant, and CMRPC did not apply for this grant, and to find out that they don't really do that, on top of the fact that we need the contact person on that application to be somebody with the authority to be able to do the job.
I agree with them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
I guess I'll agree too.
Yeah, voted you.
All right, so I will call Mr. Horn tomorrow, let him know what happened, see what happens next, and we'll go from there. All right. Police chief hiring update. How'd your office hours go?
My office hours went far better than I expected, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the folks that came in to meet with me. It was a quite overwhelming, much stronger response than I had expected, and quite honestly more than I'd hoped for. Folks did show up. They was a pretty unanimous opinion, actually it was unanimous, to hire within. In the meantime, this office has gotten multiple emails, messages from town citizens and their thoughts on it, and I would, I easily 95 or a higher percentage all indicated that they wanted this to hire within, that the comfortability of hiring somebody who understood the community, somebody who the community already trusted. It seems as the town of North, the people of North Brookfield have spoken and given at least what I asked for. So I am comfortable in saying that through all this, it is a pretty clear choice that we should be looking from within.
Ralph?
I think I said at the last meeting, I thought we should start from within. I thought that would be standard operating procedure. You start from within first and go from there. So I'm all in favor of looking inside for a variety of reasons.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to advertise for the new police chief starting tomorrow internally.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Only that, again, I want to thank everybody that showed up at the office, and I want to thank everyone who emailed and sent their thoughts in one way or another. This is the way that it, in my mind, it's supposed to work.
Alrighty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a minimum length of time it needs to be posted for? Or do you know? All right. So I guess we'll do that and
10 to 15.
It's usually 10 business days.
Usually 10.
okay. So we'll do 10 business days and then maybe we'll have interviews at our next televised meeting. So, all right. Mass Municipal Paving Project update.
Okay. We finally got word that the DOT has approved the Mass Municipal paving project from New Braintree line to Spring Street. We've got the official agreement. It is official, it is signed off, it is completely through the DOT approval process, which is a big relief. It is getting late in the year, and it's pretty clear to me that unfortunately it won't be this year, although I I have, it's getting a little late, and I'd be a little concerned as to the results that we'd be left with if it was trying to squeeze into this year. But, you know, the relief is that we got it. The completion date is 6/30 of next year. So I would assume going into next year, we will be at the top of the list as to projects. And, yeah, good news, certainly good news.
And I think too that there's more on here than we thought there was gonna be as far as what their scope of work was gonna be.
Yes, there is.
Yes, yes, and in talking to the DOT project manager, I must say, I'm pretty impressed with this program, in that how much of a load it does take off the town. There are some things in here that I wouldn't have assumed they would take care of, meaning like storm drains, replacing frames if need, resetting frames, which, you know, that's the devil's in the details of all that, if, you know, if they weren't gonna cover it. But by and large, this is probably, in my opinion, probably one of the best things that's happened in the town, you know, at least this year.
You should note that there's a zero match for the town on it. And it's managed financially outside of the town, so we don't have to manage any of that, so that is also a big plus.
And I'll also add to this that this is phase 1 for North Brookfield,
Yes.
and there is a phase 2.
Mhm.
So, you know, if Highway, who has a pretty good long-term plan for paving with the Chapter 90 money, as well as phase 1 and phase 2, you know, in some amount of time, and I don't want to guess because this one took a little longer than expected, that all main routes will, you know, eventually be new pavement, which is pretty exciting.
I'd also like to add, I think that Kim at Highway did a majority of the work trying to get DOT involved in paving that road as well. So,
Kim has been awesome,
yes.
an absolute asset to this town.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank
All
you,
right.
by the way,
For what?
bringing her up.
Oh, you're welcome. Right, do we have to vote on that, or is it just a?
You guys just wanted to tell the town, because everybody's been asking about the paving, so I just wanted to give an update on the project.
All right. Town website. Did Joe leave?
Yep.
All right.
Do you want me to get the update?
What's that?
Do you want me to give the update?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we're still getting information from both Catalyst and Civic Plus for the website because of the conversion and data turnover and ADA compliance. So we're waiting for final figures of how much it will cost annually, the increase, and all of that. So we should have a decision at the next meeting, but Joe from the Finance Committee has been going back and forth with each company to try to really nail them down so that we're getting the lowest number and the best deal for our website conversion. Okay?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe Tranacosta.
All right, next thing, water and sewer billing. So Eric and Jamie, did you guys go to that meeting last week with?
I attended the meeting, yes.
I did not.
And as far as going to quarterly billing versus what we're doing now, are you guys both good with that now?
I am.
Yes, we're good with it. As far as small stipulations and a little bit of rules and regulations we're gonna have to work out, I think we're both in agreement of it's probably gonna be best for the townspeople, water and sewer users, to go to a combined quarterly billing. Make it a little less of a burden on everybody.
All right. I will entertain a motion to move our sewer and water billing to quarterly.
Second.
Any discussion?
Uh,
Remember, don't talk a lot.
I already killed that one, didn't I?
When is this gonna start? Next.
Well, my first question is, does this motion include combining them too, or just going quarterly?
The way it worked, or from what I had heard from my assistant who actually did attend, Lindsay, who attended the meeting with you, Eric, this was combining them and going quarterly at the same time. I guess from what...
That was my understanding.
Yeah, and from what QDS had said, it's gonna start off biannually still. They can't just immediately go to quarterly. We have to discuss it, announce it to townspeople, you know, there's gotta be a way to ease it in. So it's not gonna happen absolutely right away. They have to, this is all brand new software for them, and with us combined billing in this town, so they have to give us a little bit of time in themselves to make sure everything's kosher with the numbers and accounts and everything like that, and then we can, when we give them the okay, yes, let's go to quarterly, and they'll somehow step it out for us where it makes it okay for the citizens and whatnot.
So this will be quarterly, it'll be combined, and it's just gonna have a little bit of growing pains in the beginning.
Yeah, like I said, there's slight things as to where demand fees go and how they get split, this and that, and, you know, whether it's gonna be one check for both, or is it gonna be a separate water and sewer, even though it's on. So, like I said, there's a little bit to work out still, but neither one of us are opposed to going quarterly, so, and together.
Right, and let us know as soon as you have updates so we can announce them here.
Yeah, we'll have to have a public hearing, I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like they want to start billing July 26th, like the first quarterly. So
Okay.
my assumption is April, May, June, and is going to be water consumed, and then your bill will come out in July. Because then that will allow for July, October, January, and April billing, and then we can collect you can collect all your revenue that way. It's in 4 different billing cycles. So that's the way I understood it. I'll confirm that with Ken and QDS, but so you know, I think probably planning for some time after the new year to have a public hearing.
And just to confirm, you know, to kind of, not only for my own peace of mind, but for those who might be watching, that what we were doing before was not the norm.
Correct.
We were the only town doing billing the way that we were doing anywhere around us. And what we're going with is the standard.
Correct.
For the software company.
Yes.
This is the way, the standard way that the billing and software company work.
Right.
Nothing special for North Brookfield, so when we need support, we've got support. It's not something particular to us.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right,
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
new business. Parks and Rec expression of interest for an eco grant. What's that stand for?
Environment and Climate One Stop. This is not exactly a grant application, just to be clear. This is similar to the Community One Stop, which is an umbrella of grants available under this particular grouping. So this is the first step. It's basically throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks and what comes back as far as grants that might be applicable to our project, which is for the common. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on the start of the process here. So we did look into Park Grant previously, which has a match, and just the way it shook out, I just figured it was not the time to proceed with a grant application for that. So this Environment Climate One Stop, there are no matches, and it's not what we envision as a completed project, but it can help pick away at some of the items on the common. Well, one of the big things is tree planting and removal of some of the old dead trees. And we're also hoping to get a few more things in there, like maybe removal of some of the old asphalt and replanting grass and things like that. So, like I said, this is kind of the first step, and when they come back with what grants will apply, bring that to you, and then we'll proceed from there to see if you want to proceed with the grant application.
Okay. So you're not looking for a vote tonight?
No, this is more, like I said, more heads up on the
Okay.
process. We're just starting.
Any questions for Brandon?
Oh, that's good.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Council on Aging Formula Grant Application. For an estimated $20,272, it says no match. Funding source is the state of Massachusetts. It's a yearly state grant based on,
The number of 60 and older residents.
okay. Do you know anything about it, Ralph?
I do not, I think this is just the annual grant that they use, that they can apply towards anything as long as it's senior related.
Okay.
We used it this year for the postage and things like that.
All right. Do we have to vote on this one, or is this just a heads up too, for now?
You guys usually vote on the grant applications and you sign off on
All
it,
right.
because it's just the internal process.
Okay.
No? Why are you saying ah?
Well, I mean, we put a process in place for
Yeah.
grants, right?
Mhm.
I don't see any paperwork.
It's in your packet.
See this?
That's all that they've been submitting for the annual no match.
Okay.
And she's okay with it.
I didn't say that.
I know you're looking nervous, so.
Okay, so we've met the requirements.
We-
Thank you.
All right.
Your opposition.
All right.
So they can-
I'll make a motion to approve the grant application for the Council on Aging Formula Grant.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So, somebody here representing the Cemetery Commission?
I guess I can.
All right.
The cemetery received their final payment from Robert Salem's estate in the amount of $4,312.74. There was a letter stating that we could get money after as well. This was actually surplus to what we thought we were getting. And it will be going towards the roads in Walnut Grove Cemetery, repaving.
Excellent. All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the gift for the Cemetery Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Appreciate the help.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Highway Superintendent's report. Randy, you're up.
I don't have it. She didn't give me a copy.
I have a copy for you, it's somewhere if you want it.
And then touch on the work you did on the Spring Street.
Can you put that in here?
It's not on here, no, I don't think. I'll turn the camera around.
So we got several roads paved. Town Farm, Donovan, Lower South Fulham Hill. We're gonna be reclaiming Heinz Bridge, Stoddard and Walker Roads in October, should be happening next week. We got the concrete pad poured for our tank down there. Tank is all down and it's working. And we did catch basin repair in front of the liquor store and one on Grant Street. Then we're going on with maintenance and vehicle repairs, getting ready for winter. And we did repair a drain on private property on Spring Street. That was an ongoing problem, but it's fixed now.
Now you say private property, but that was an easement.
It's an easement.
And it was actually a town.
Town easement, yeah,
To clarify that.
right.
So it was a town easement with a town drain line that went through the private property, had problems, was leaking out into the
Yep,
private property.
yep. And that's about all we got.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the highway superintendent's report for October.
So moved. Second.
September, I mean. We'll go back to. Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. COA updates. Ralph?
I just have a few things. We've been making progress on the results from the survey. We have now brought back Tri-Valley meals, given up for a while. They're starting on November 18th, Tuesdays. Tri-Valley meals will be $3 for anybody 60 and over, and anybody under 60 is $6. And we just ask that you contact the center if you plan on going, so we make sure we get the right amount of meals. We are contacting the 40-some odd people who volunteered or said they would volunteer, and trying to match them up with programs so we can expand our programs and expand our hours. We're not sure how we're going to expand the hours entirely yet, but I think we can find a way to get that done. And we are now placing information in the newspaper, the Quabog Current in particular, in that one of the big things we got out of the survey was people didn't feel there was enough communication of the activities that they did. So we're trying to expand the activities, expand the hours, bringing back Tri-Valley meals once a week for now, and we will be communicating. We are communicating through the newspaper, so people have more access to what's going on.
Great, thank you, Ralph. All right, you guys got any other new business? Okay. All right, I do have a couple of small things I want to talk about real quick, since we have our school committee chairman with us tonight. Congratulations on being chairman, by the way.
Thank you.
We got an email a few weeks back from the building inspector talking about the some of the things that need to be done for safety purposes at the school, and one of them was the dugouts. And because it's going to cost money, so what we did is I talked to Randy at Highway, and he's able to get rid of the dugouts. Ethan from the Board of Health said that we could dump it all in their demolition containers, and it wouldn't have cost the school any money. And we sent an email to Tim McCormick regarding that, and I just haven't heard back yet, so I'm not sure where that stands. And then the other thing is they were gonna cut some trees down at the end of New School Drive, and they were gonna hire a outside tree person to cut those down. They're just small trees, but they had the spectrum cables were in those trees. And Verizon owns the poles. So Verizon's actually gonna trim the trees. It's not gonna cost us anything. Spectrum's gonna move their wires up, And then we just need a date. I talked to you earlier today about that. If there's a professional development day or half day where the kids are not gonna be there, where highway can actually go up and chip all the small trees and get them out of the way once Spectrum and Verizon are done. So that won't cost the school any money either. So I don't know if you knew about any of that or.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the dugouts. I talked to Tim about that. The trees, no, I didn't. I mean, we briefly talked about it, but nothing final, no action at that point when we had talked about it. So I'll follow up.
Right. And then you talked about your findings last night on your task force?
Yes, yep, we gave our presentation, so regarding the tuition out potential, we're gonna hopefully schedule a special meeting to have a couple of districts come in and talk to us about, give us a presentation from the whole school committee about what they have to offer for our children and get some financial proposals.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you're there.
That's fine.
So. All right, public comment period. Of course. Brandon?
Just let everybody know, be kind of winding down on regular hours at the museum because it does get a little chilly down there to be sitting there. But I'm happy to open by appointment, so if anybody wants to come down and view anything or look through any of our materials or do any research, I'm always happy to try to make arrangements for that. So you can contact me through our Facebook page is probably the best way. Just message me through the Historical Society Facebook page. But other than that, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Well, all right. So we have, we're going to be advertising for the police chief. We've got we've got room on committees. If you have an interest, I'm sure there's a committee that we could fit you on. Just reach out to us. Pending items, we've got the, figure out the town website, and then, what else you got?
Committee openings listed on the town website?
They sure are.
Yes.
Okay.
There
Could you
go.
just announce the trick or treat hours again?
Next page. This thing. Here.
I got them mixed up, it's down at the
Oh
bottom.
my gosh.
All right, you're done. I'm all done, yeah. All right, hydrant flushing. See, I'm looking, just give me one, please. Hydrant flushing is still happening through October 31st. Check the official Town of North Brookfield Facebook page for updates on this. Trick or treating in North Brookfield will be on Halloween, Friday, October 31st from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. The trunk or treat event will be held on the common at the same time. There's multiple job and committee openings available on the town website. A reminder that we do need seasonal snowplow drivers, so please fill out an application online or call Kim at Highway at 508-867-0213 if you need help getting the application. All right. Is that it?
For announcements.
All right. You got
was
something else?
I have two things I'd like to bring up, if I could.
Public comment period's over.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I've had several people approach me and ask me what the town does for Veterans Day. I don't have a good response for that. So I was hoping to get a little bit of help. What are we doing? Veterans Day's coming quick.
Well, traditionally, I don't think we've ever really done anything. We've talked about it. The school used to have
They do.
do they still?
Every year they've done a breakfast, yes.
They do a pancake breakfast?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
They do a breakfast, but I think it's for veterans of the kids that,
They have veterans go that don't have children associated with the school as well, yeah.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
If you'd like to go.
And do they do that on Veterans Day?
No, places are closed on Veterans Day,
Right.
so they usually do it a day or two ahead of time. Generally, our Veterans Service Officer in the town hall gets notification and helps coordinate the event and reaches out to the veterans through the Legion, VFW, or when they come in, and she'll usually let us know. So as soon as we know from the school, we can announce it here.
Okay, you're the school. What do you think?
Sounds good. No, I think it could be something that probably gets more publicized, because it's been done in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, it wasn't always something everyone was aware of, so.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have one more thing. I really appreciate Randy's report, and I'm wondering why we don't get activity reports from others. I'd like to know, other than by hearsay or whatever, what everybody's doing. I'd like to know. And I think that it also would help, just activity, like, I don't know, what happened last month? What did you work on last month? What problems did you have? What vehicles were down and for how long? How many man hours were you down because of illness or things like that? It wouldn't not just for us, for communication purposes for us, but I think for the departments. I think it would help in your planning and budgeting when you can say, geez, we had a really, you know, our numbers are really up for, you know, whatever it is. And maybe that's something that would happen with a TA, I don't know. But I really think that we need to have some communication about what departments are facing, good, bad, and the ugly. I don't think that's asking for a lot, but I'd like to see that.
Well, in the past, we have gotten monthly reports from the police chief and the fire chief. And it's been a while, I think, since we've gotten one from either chief, so.
I haven't seen
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
Yeah, when we had a town administrator for a short while there, one of his things was, you know, send, or all departments had send in a monthly report, and that seemed to kind of fizzle out once he left.
Yeah. Well, the only two we used to have was the fire and police chiefs. And we should probably send emails out and ask people to do that again. So, Jamie?
And I was just gonna say, my superintendent's report is always in our meeting minutes on the website, so if anyone wants to know what we did that month, it is right there, so.
Thank you.
Yep. But if you guys are gonna request anything extra, I'll be.
I think you should come read them.
I could,
Once a month.
I could, all right.
Is that, do we have a motion?
Only if I have an assistant here holding the paper for me.
All right. You got anything?
No.
Anything else? Mary Beth, you good?
Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
No discussion on that?
No. Nope, don't need help from the peanut gallery.